All right, frugal friends. Today I'm gonna roast myself. If you've ever seen my channel before, you might have thought, wow, that Hillary seems so financially put together. I am now. Today, I would like to let you in on all the dirty little secrets. Before we get into the horrible, no good, very bad money days that I used to have, I do have 3 bright points from my financial past that I wanted to at least give myself kudos for. Number 1 is that I automatically was contributing to a pension when I was working as a teacher. This wasn't something in my control. I couldn't opt out of the system. So it's not really a choice that I made that was good, but it was a mark in my favor, which the second good thing I can say for myself is that I did live with roommates. Some years I lived with many roommates as a young adult. There was one year that there was like me and 5 other ladies living in this one house, and it was awesome. 1 bathroom, still awesome. No matter what my situation, I kept roommates around because part of me knew that was a good financial move than trying to spend all of my paycheck on really high rents. So good job, Hillary. You knew one thing. And finally, I'm going to talk more in detail about the disastrous car purchase that I made. Disastrous is a bit of an exaggeration. But the one bright spot I could point out is that I did get 0% interest for the life of the loan, which is insane and you don't hear about anymore. But I happened to shop. Apparently, I didn't know it at the time, but like right at the end of car salesmen need to make their quotas time, and they just needed to sell more cars. And so I happened to show up the last day of the month and the last day of the quarter when they really needed to make sales, and they were willing to sell me a car that made them $0 in profit on the interest. So, I mean, that was good. But you didn't come here because you wanted to hear me talk about all the good things I did with my finance as a young person. You want to hear all the ways I screwed up, so let's do that. All right, so let's go back to the car thing. First, I bought a brand new car basically as soon as I got my first big girl job. And this is the classic mistake. You often see this mistake with like people in the armed services who like as soon as they get through boot camp and now they're officially in the army or whatever, they go straight to the car dealership and they get a Dodge Charger for like 24% interest, which is a terrible decision. Because even, and this still counts, I just double checked this before I started filming, even today, when you're looking at the price of new cars versus used cars, there is still a big discrepancy. You are still getting a ton of depreciation on a brand new car when you drive it off the lot. I had no business buying a brand new car. I was a second year teacher. You know, teachers don't make that much money. I did need a new to me vehicle. It was important that I had safe, reliable transportation to work. I didn't need a brand new car for that. I went so naively to the dealership and I said I wanted to buy a used car. And then the salesman just smooth talked me and I ended up walking away with a brand new car. I had an emergency fund that was way more than it needed to be, especially when I was making payments on debts that I didn't need to keep around, and I was paying interest every month and the interest kept going up because I had no idea what emergency funds, how big they should be. Basically, my understanding of financial life was I didn't want to be poor, but I had no idea how much money you needed not to be poor. I didn't have any definition of poor. I had no idea what my expenses were every single month, no written budget. And so there was just this money sitting there, and I was sitting on it like a dragon, hoarding it, because I'm like, I don't want to be poor. I don't want to be poor. I don't want to be poor. I don't know how much I need not to be poor, so I'm just going to sit on more. And that's just bad. And that's bad for 2 reasons. 1, because money can work for you if you want it to. That's called compound interest. It's called investing. It's called having a high yield savings or checking account, whatever. Just sitting on it in a savings account is the worst thing you can do, especially today in inflationary times. Holy guacamole, I'm so glad I'm not doing that anymore. But the second thing is money can be used to be generous. And I love being generous, but I was so caught up in this fear of I don't want to be poor that I was sitting on more money than I needed to sit on to feel comfortable if I had any idea what my actual expenses were, and I could outline how much risk I was willing to take and how much money I needed to feel safe, because if I actually knew what my expenses were, I could save 3 to 6 months a number that would keep me safe. If I knew, oh, the amount of money in my bank account, I could lose my job tomorrow, I would still have enough for X number of months. I'm okay. I would have been so much more generous, especially with no responsibilities as a single person. I was already giving to charity and tithing to church, but if I knew I was comfortable and safe, I would have given so much more away and tried to do so much more good with my money if I wasn't afraid of losing it. I also mentioned I didn't know what my expenses were. This included utilities. I lived with all these roommates. One of my roommates was real good with money and numbers. I just trust her. I paid her whatever she asked for a month. I still have no idea. I should have known roughly what utilities cost every month, not just paid Megan whenever she told me to pay her. Sorry, Megan. I should have been better. I also had no idea how to read my bank account statement. No idea how much money was in there usually. Like, I'd look at a number and I was like, oh, that looks like a big number. And then a little while later, I was like, oh, did it go up by a few hundred or down by a few hundred? I don't remember. I should just keep saving more because I'm not sure. And I didn't know. You could go back and look at former statements and then I could know, oh, it went up. Oh, it went down. Sweet, sweet baby Hillary. You can look at all of your financial statements. Next, I had no financial goals. This kind of ties in with the giving thing because I think that would have been one of my major financial goals as a young person. But I also didn't recognize I could save. This is a determined amount of money I want to call my emergency fund. I didn't realize I could say, oh, I have this much extra left over. I can invest this in the stock market. I was very afraid of the stock market. It seemed like this voodoo witchcraft to me. Like, you put money in and more money comes out like it's a money machine. Like, how does that work? I wish I hadn't been so afraid of it because it's very safe. Not talking about single stocks. I'm talking about safe whole market index funds for the next 30, 40, 50 years. Like, if I had known the power of compound interest, it would have been way better. And so in line with that, I wasn't contributing anything to retirement. Nothing, aside from whatever was mandatorily taken out from my pension later. I had no idea that, you know what? A pension might not be enough when I'm older. I just assumed, oh, well, they're taking money out. That'll cover me when I'm old and 65. And now, especially, I know there's plenty of people who watch this channel who are closer to retirement age, and all of a sudden they're like, holy cow, it's not enough. It's not enough. Why didn't I know this? It's not anymore. The average amount of money that people get monthly from Social Security or pensions aren't enough anymore for most people. And when you're on a fixed income and you're scared, you're no longer able to make new choices to getting a brand new job, starting a new career, starting a side hustle. This is the time you wanted to relax. This is the time when your body's starting to slow down and you're not as young and sprightly as you once were. I know I can say at least I'm realizing it now. I'm grateful that I am, but I wish I had even realized it earlier. Okay, here's a really dumb one. Sometimes keeping debt around might mathematically look like a better decision if you can theoretically make more money investing in certain opportunities, whatever. But if I knew anything about myself, it's that I was an anxious person when it came to money. I wish I had known that getting rid of debt, I wish I had known the weight that would be lifted when that debt came off sooner. Because I had money sitting in my bank account, and yet I was keeping this debt around because I didn't want to lose any of the money in my bank account to pay off the debt because I didn't know how much I needed in the bank account. So I just kept the debt around, and I didn't realize that that choice was costing. I was paying for that choice every month in terms of interest. I didn't realize that every month I was saying, yes, thank you for continuing to let me keep money in my bank account. I will pay you for that choice. And every month I paid them for that choice a little bit more. And I wish I had known that I didn't have to do that, and that keeping this pile of dragon hoarded money in my bank account was not the only way of feeling financially secure. And it wasn't even making me feel secure. I was still anxious about it. Learning the language of money when my husband and I finally got married and we sat down and we're like, look, we're on different pages. We don't even know if we're in the same book. We have no idea what's going on. So we sat down a month after we got married and we learned. And once we learned a common language to speak to one another in, it was like the veil was lifted from my eyes. I'm like, oh, I don't need to feel this anxiety. Like I can see a future for the first time in my life. I can see a future where that anxiety isn't there. And now I'm living it. Like it's possible. Little Hillary, she couldn't have imagined it. And finally, for like a little, I've been talking a big talk here. Usually I stick to a lot smaller financial topics, but I'll leave you with a little one. Good Lord, the way I used to grocery shop horrifies me now that I know a better way. Had such brand loyalty. If you had asked me back in 2017, Hillary, what do you spend on groceries in a typical week? No idea. I would not have any idea what to tell you, except I have looked back at old written sheets and it was like $70 question mark. There were definitely times it was triple digits. For me, as a single person, 2017, I now am feeding my family of 5. Granted, one is a baby and mostly eat bananas. But I now can feed my family on double-digit grocery weekly bills and not even need to go into the triple digits some weeks. I'm spending now, in all of this inflationary times, what Hillary from 2017 spent on just herself. I wish I could tell her so many different things. Like, guess what? You know what? Goat cheese is real good. Do you need it every week? How often does it go bad before you realize it and you've just bought another one? Like, Hillary, how much food are you wasting? Hillary, you wasted so much food. It all went so bad because you'd buy the food and then you wouldn't cook the food and then you'd get the 2017 equivalent of DoorDash and my sweet summer child. I would love to reach back into the time portal vortex and just be like, Hillary, why don't you set a budget and stick to it? That's a good place to start. I will send you to this video next, and I will see you hopefully next week. Bye, YouTube. Oh.